Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Sipur. We are in Hashem going to continue with the Maisa from Mechiga, from the Cripple. And what we're dealing with right now is once the Yetzer Hara says in the forest, we're talking about the chief robber, the one that talks everybody into becoming robbers. He's the one. We're into his sales pitch, the way that he gets people to join him. So we started by saying that, first of all, there was a hunger. That the SR is it takes a person who is in distress, any kind of distress, and takes away his Yeshiva Das. Because it's a lot easier, to be cool and calm and collected when everything goes fine, when things are easy. It's when things don't go the way they should that things get more challenging. So when a person is in a situation of distress, it's more likely that he'll lose his cool, that he will resort to desperate measures. And that's the time when the Sitracha is waiting to hunt. So what he did was he called anybody who needs parnasa, come to him. First of all, the Yetzer Hara tells you, listen, whatever it is that you need, if it's health, if it's wealth, if it's whatever it is, you come to me. It tells you what you're going to do. I mean, you want to be David Hashem, wonderful. But you got to eat, you got to pay the bills. You got to do this, you got to that. How are you going to do it? And then, says, okay, so let's say that a person listens to him and he follows him. You need to go to work, right? So a person goes to work, and then the emergency is over. You already have, you have the money to buy food or whatever it is. Says, okay, now let's go back to Beis Hashem, let's go to learning. Says, no, but what's going to happen if you're going to go into neediness once again? So you had better do that which got you this, state of stability and security, and then, you can, you'll be fine. If you go back to Beis Hashem, you're going to come to that state of neediness again. What are you going to do then? No, you better don't do that. And then once you're already, you're working, you make a little money. So what's the big deal if you, as we said, you make the house look nicer. I mean, it's not the end of the world. What's happening? You have a nice house, And as far as food is concerned, so what's so wrong, with having steaks and sushi and whatnot, whatever it is? What's so wrong about that? And slowly but surely, things that were optional become needs. Because once you have a big house, well, You have a lot of expenses. So you have to have it. B'kitzu, what he does is he makes the needs wider and wider and wider. When the truth is that Rabbeinu says in many places, Rabbi Nosson says in many places, he says that a person needs at all times to do the opposite move, to diminish your needs. In other words, when you take a look and you see the things that you take for granted, I mean, I need to have that, and you sort of like take it off the list. You don't need to have that. I mean, you have to have meat 5 times a week, 6 times a week, at least 3 times a week. I have to have it. 4 times a week, I have to have it. What's wrong with 3 times a week or 2 times a week? No, I mean, Mr. Kavantet, I'm talking about being normal. You're not talking about, so it's a new normal. The thing is that we are constantly, rewriting what normal is. I have to have a bigger car, right? If there were a newer model, I have to have, and this is how the Yitzhara catches the person. So when people came to them, so he said, the story was that he says, the chief robber says, anybody who wants food, wants sustenance, will come to him. And a few people came to him, and he made it. Man, he did it slightly. Anybody that he understood that that's not the kind of partners in crime that he needed, so he pushed him away. You can be, a craftsman. This one you can be, you can work hard. Go ahead and just work hard. And you'll anashim chachamim. What he did was he took only smart people. It's one of the things that the Gemara says. The Gemara says that the Yitzhara leaves the entire world and latches on to Am Yisrael. In Am Yisrael, he leaves the entire Am Yisrael and latches on to Talmidei Chachamim. The main kavanah of the Baal Davar is to capture the intelligent ones, the smart ones, those that have the ability to reveal the light of the Das and the Yichud, that Hashem or Elokim, and to water the tree. Now, Nishmas Yisrael that have the koyach to do they cause real pleasure to Hashem Yisbarach, these are the ones that he chooses to bring down the most. The Gemara says in Sukkah, the Chacham, he more than anybody else. And the thing is that the higher they go, the more he starts with them. And we can see in many times that the great ones make great mistakes and there's nobody that can fix them. Sometimes he lets a person to go to the top of the top, and then he tries to dump him down and defeat him. And what's the Nisayon? The Nisayon is that he takes him to the forest, as we'll see that the story is, he took him to the forest and says, we're going to be robbers. The forest is the place where you have Bilbulei Emunah. Yeah, in other words, and it's when the person loses his emunah, when his mind gets confused, that's when the Yitzhara brings him to the lowest of the low and say, let's be robbers. That's the way it works in this world. When a person goes around hungry, and it's not just physically hungry, it's spiritually hungry. He goes around without chiyus. The Baal Dava comes and says, listen, I'm going to help you. The Baal Dava comes and cheats you and he says, trust me, I'm going to help you. I'm going to make you feel good. It is so dangerous that sometimes when a person is in distress and somebody comes to help him, and because of that person's distress, he doesn't actually look at what kind of help is being offered. And it can actually brings a person to do serious averos, especially when people are younger. You know, the robbers, those that cheat people outside of Yiddishkeit is dafka the chachamim, dafka the smart ones. The Yetzer Hara grabbed himself into the chachma. Because when a person doesn't have what to eat, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, and he doesn't have what to feed himself, dafka then the chacham becomes crafty, and he looks for solutions, under the earth, as it were, and until and he gets all verkrumt and all twisted, and because he needs to have parnasa. When you need to have parnasa, so what are you going to do? So the Yetzer Hara shows the person that your solution is to steal from people. And there's all kind of heterim that the Baal Davar convinces a person, you do what you have to, you do what you must. This Beno says that the secret of Yiddishkeit is in simplicity and innocence. And David HaMelech says that the biggest shevach, he says, is when David HaMelech says, Be'emot hayiti imach, I was like an animal with you, that Be'emot hayiti imach, Rashi says, I believe, or the Gemara says it, Elu bnei adam ha'arumim b'das, these are the people who are super smart. Ametzirim atzmam kebehemo, that make themselves as gullible as a cattle, as cattle, just like. He also speaks about it in Likutei Halachos, and he says there is this kind of equilibrium that this bipolar equation, of wisdom and innocence and tamimus, being a person, being misnamed by, according, when you follow your wisdom, you follow your chokhmah, as opposed to being like a behemoth, like totally gullible, totally simple, totally innocent, without any. So Nosson says this kind of duality of when to do this and when to do that, this is the secret of Avodas Hashem. As Rabbeinu says in Likutei Maharan in Torah Vav, and he says that the main proficiency in halacha, membekis in halacha, is boki beratzah and boki b'shov, being proficient where things are going really well, and knowing what to do when things are going really well, and knowing what to do when things are going badly. This has to do doing well and doing badly in Aliyah and in Yerida, also in when do you employ your wisdom, and when do you take the wisdom and put it aside, and hold on just one second. When do you use your seichel, and when do you push the seichel away? Rabbi Nosson says that when it comes to learning and to wanting to understand, a person should be tmimistic. It's counterintuitive. What do you mean? When you learn, you should use your seichel, right? You should use your intellect, you should use your... And when you're behaving, l'maisa, you should use your wisdom. This is the opposite of the Greek way of looking at things, the secular way of looking at things. And also brings it as a suggestion. Hashem should help us, B'ezrat Hashem should give us, all of us, B'ezrat Hashem should bear Kodesh Baruch Hu. B'ezrat Hashem should bring us diburim that we can use B'sus Habeinu for Avodas Hashem. Nosson explains that the people that are far from Yiddishkeit, they want to learn Kabbalah. They want to understand everything. But the thing is that you cannot understand properly unless your keli, your vessel, is proper. If you don't thoroughly understand the basics, you cannot add any chokhmah. You'll not understand. I mean, take any profession in the world. I mean, it's like when you take even people that are athletes, okay? Professional athletes. They spend endless hours of training in the very basics to the point that they don't have to think about it anymore. They're doing it right. It's part of their DNA, as it were. The thing is that you can't jump and acquire delight without having the keli with which the light can reside. This is what Rabbeinu says in Terech HaFalav that we're learning now in the Likutei Moharan. If the keli is not proper, if you do not sanctify yourself, if you don't behave the way Shulchan Aruch says, anything that you will learn will become twisted. So it also says all those people that are far from Yiddishkeit, they want to understand everything. So they're starting to become smart. They're smart, they're wise, as it were. But when it comes to day-to-day behavior, they're behaving like animals. You know, there's no good and bad, whatever it is, they do whatever their hearts desire, and so forth and so on. Your secret of Avodas Hashem is exactly the opposite. You learn what you need to learn. You understand whatever you need to understand. There's certain basics that you need to know. You have to learn halacha. When you build upon that, you learn the dvarim of the tzaddik. The Rebbe explains that the unique thing about the Torah of the tzaddik is that, as we said now, if you don't have the keli and you're learning Torah which is above your station, which is above your level, the keli which is twisted, which is corrupt, corrupts the light, the wisdom that goes into it. You understand things in a twisted manner. It actually leads you away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the keli is right and sturdy, in other words, the keli means how you're behaving, how you're conducting yourself. This is based on seichel, this is based on Torah, this is based on halacha. Then any light that comes in, you are able to interpret the light properly and to understand it properly, and that seichel would lead you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbeinu calls that equilibrium in Torah Aleph, Vaya Or Levana Ke'or Chama. The light of the moon will be equal to the light of the sun. When you're putting the Malchus before the Chochmah, when you are putting the Tmimus, as the Keli of the Chochmah, it creates an equality between the Chama and the Levana, the sun and the moon. It begs an explanation. What do you mean that when you do things properly, it equalizes the light of the moon with the light of the sun? The sun is a lot bigger than the moon. We're not talking about Olam Haba. We're talking about here now. So what do you mean, Vaya Or Levana Ke'or Chama, that the light of the moon is equal to the light of the sun? How does that work? The answer is that the light of the sun is something that you are not able to look into ever without having a keli, without having a filter between you and that unlimited light. But when the delimiter, when the constriction is faithful and it's constructed al pi Torah, what it does, it constricts the light of the sun in a true way, in a real way, that will eventually enlarge your understanding and enlarge your mind in a way that leads you to the real truth, to the sun, as it were. For example, when you're taking a child to cheder and you learn with him Aleph Beis, when he understands the Aleph Beis, that Kometz Aleph A, and Kometz Beis Ba, Kometz Gimel Ga, Kometz Dalet Da, and so forth, and Segol Aleph E, Segol Beis Be, Segol Gimel Ge. That means that the light of the Levana is equal to the light of the Chama. Why? That's what he just knows, the letters. He doesn't understand what the words mean. He can't read words. Kal v'chomer cannot read sentences. Kal v'chomer cannot understand the Gemara. Kal v'chomer cannot understand the Rishonim, the Achronim. He just knows the letters, yeah. But what he knows right. He knows the Aleph, the same kind of knowledge that he knows about the Aleph is the Aleph that he will use when he will learn Chumash. It's the same Aleph, understanding of the Aleph that he will understand when he will learn Gemara. is the same aleph that he will understand when he will attempt to learn Kabbalah, and so forth and so on. Which means he is on the right track. He is learning the truth, constricted in a way that it's commensurate with his level. He's a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old. This is what he can do. He can learn aleph base, fine. 3-year-old, 4-year-old. So for him, learning the aleph base properly when he knows it, for him, that's pshat of equalizing the light that is shining to him to orachama. Because the constriction is correct. If he'll continue that with that road, ultimately he will know the entire Torah. That means or levanak orachama. When you are using what it is that you need to do and how it is that you need to behave, you're using your seichel there. Don't behave like a behemoth. Don't behave like an animal. Behave like a human being. But when it comes to learning, I'm learning whatever it is that I know, whatever it is that I can. I don't jump over but puppet. I'm not trying to understand things which are way beyond my pay grade. That's not what I need to do. You're building it slowly, you're building it steadily. The main seichel is in how you behave. But the Yetzer Hara wants you to do the opposite. When it comes to learning, no, I need to understand, Kabbalah and Yonim. I need to understand the real deep things. And, this is too simple. This is like, that's not for me. It's like, but when it comes to behavior, then people just, the same people that are looking for chokhmah, are looking for wisdom, are looking for anything, it's like they behave like animals. They're switching it over. When it comes to understanding, they want to understand everything without a keli. When it comes to behaving, they're behaving like animals. It's supposed to be the other way around. You behave according to seichel. When you learn, when you judge what's going on, you know what means. The thing that is so amazing about the Torah of the tzaddik, that's what innocence says, that lichua, when the mind gets corrupted, whenever a person does any kind of avera, any kind of deviation from the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it corrupts his kalim. It corrupts his mind. Your mind is the tool which you use to understand. If the faculties of the mind are corrupt, anything that you will understand with that mind, with those faculties, will be automatically and instantaneously corrupted. So Nosson asks, well, then there really is no hope, is there? Because how do the tzaddikim, bring us closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu? They teach us Torah. But if they teach us Torah to a mind which is corrupt, our mind corrupts the Torah, and it corrupts us even more. That's what this is what the Gemara says. V'tzadikim ilchubam poshim mikoshlubam. The tzadikim, succeed in them, and the poshim, they become, when they learn Torah, they become worse. The Torah, being that their mind, if you don't know Torah, so you do what you know. So. But if the mind is corrupt and you learn Torah, then it corrupts you even more. So it says, so where's the hope? So where's the tikkun? So Nosson explains that this is exactly the secret of the Torah of tzaddikim. And we can see this in the words of Bilam. Bilam said he was all wonderment. He came. His goal was to curse the Eden. And he came there and he says, V'inei lekachti barech uveirech v'lo ashivena. He says, I came to take the barech, and suddenly it is berech, and is it irretrievable? What's in it is as follows. The in of Bilam is that the light, when it comes from above, it's unformated as of yet. It can be this way and it can be that way. Wealth can be used in a good way, in a bad way. Love can be used in a good way, in a bad way. Food can be used in a good way, in a bad way. Everything can be used in good or bad. So when the light comes from above, so the light comes from Olam HaKesed. This is it's komets v'sosim. It is fisted and unobtainable. This is Shon Kamatzes Yoda. He fisted his hand. The vowel of kamatz is from of kmitza. This was when avoiding the mikdash, when you fist, it's closed. The light is still closed, which means it is still raw. It's unformated. It gets formated in the sphere of the Bina. The Chokhmah, it opens up. That's why the vowelization of Chokhmah is Posach. It opens. And Bina is Tzer, is Yitzira. Then it becomes formated. Bilam's system was that he was so high, so sophisticated, that he took the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, while it came and it was still fisted, it was still unformated, and Bilam, that behaved like a super behemoth, Bilam would use his kalim, his corrupted kalim, with his corrupted behavior, to format the light as it came from the Keser, Latuma. This is how he would curse. That was his power. And he says, Vine borech lakachti, I came take with a kamatz, barech. Vine beirech velo ashivena, suddenly it's already formatted. The light is already formatted. I cannot, velo ashivena, I cannot undo it. It was already formatted l'toiva, and I cannot curse the Eden. That was what Bilam said. That's what the tzaddikim do. The tzaddikim tell us a Torah, and this one explains, and the Torah is already, when it comes from the tzaddik, it's already pre-formatted. So when it comes to our mind, it is like a mother's milk. A mother's milk means that it goes to every single cell of the body. It opens up. It turns on. The DNA triggers are supposed to be on, and it shuts off the DNA triggers are supposed to be off, and cleans everything and does everything and sustains and everything. It's the healthiest food that there is. That's why Rabbeinu says in Torah Daled, that the tzaddik is called a mother. It's a shemanik that feeds Am Yisrael with his Torah. This is a great nikuda we need to understand, because supposedly we are learning here things that seem to be they don't just seem to be, they're so high, they're so exalted, and they're so immense that you say, whoa, this is way above my station. You don't need to worry. The tzaddik gives us the Torah according to our madriga. The main thing is we need to understand what Rabbeinu says. Somebody once came to Rabbeinu and said, so what's the pshat in Kutam Aran? Rabbeinu says this, Rabbeinu that, Rabbeinu said that. Rabbeinu understood that he wanted to say some kind of a pshat in Kutam Aran. Rabbeinu told him, listen, you can take my sefer, Kutam Aran, and bend it this way or that way. Hold it upside down, inside out, whatever you want, no problem. Just make sure you don't deviate the slightest move from Shulchan Aruch. That's it. This is the Torah of the tzaddik. The Yetzer Hara says, listen, I'm going to show you tremendous stuff. I'm going to teach you Kabbalah. I'm going to teach you stuff. I'll blow your mind. Forget about it. Forget about it. And what about behaving? You know, you do what you need to do. This is something that we need to speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu on a daily basis. Where we spoke the last time, we spoke about the fact that you need to want. You need to ask Kadosh Baruch Hu about wanting. You also need to ask Kadosh Baruch Hu and have somebody, have a Rav that you can talk to, you know, and bring the things that are, you know, along your way, that you're meeting on a day-to-day basis, and ask your Rav about them. What should you do? Rabbi Nosson used to do it on everything. He used to tell Rabbeinu everything. And the Rabbeinu would tell him one thing, he would say, okay, that's the way it's supposed to be. There's full of stories in Chaim Oran that Rabbi Nosson came with Rabbeinu. Once he went with Rabbeinu to visit somebody's sukkah. It's a person that spent a lot of money to make a sukkah and was very proud of it. And he invited Rabbeinu to make Kiddush in the sukkah. Rabbeinu came, the person was excited. Rabbeinu Nosson looked at the sukkah and he said, you know, that this sukkah is, you know, is all kind of problems, a lot of problems with this particular sukkah. So, but Rabbi Nosson always looked at Rabbeinu to see what Rabbeinu was saying. And he saw Rabbeinu did not say anything. So he didn't say anything either to the Balabais. And then when they went away, Rabbeinu told them, a person, you'd go and spend all this money on a sukkah, and you want to break him by telling him what kind of chumras because you have, all kind of chumras and this and this and that. Keep quiet. Every single thing Rabbi Nosson offered to Rabbeinu to find out what is a sechel amiti. He never assumed I know. Never assumed I know. He always asked. You should always, always, always ask, because when it comes to making decisions, should I borrow money or should I use the money that I have? But if I use the money that I have, then maybe I will need it and I won't have it and so forth and so on. Ask. Ask one of the more choshev anash that you have contact with. It could be, I don't know, Muslim Maimon, it could be Chaim Kramer, it could be Yekimir Shechter, it could be Simcha Bar-Lev, it could be Muslim David Kivak, it could be any one of the real important ones, the elders of generation. Ask them. Don't ask somebody like me. Find a way to ask somebody who's a serious the heavy-duty cat, as they say. If you speak to somebody who's serious, you can get a sechel amiti from them. And if you happen to ask somebody like me, you never want to hear what it is that I have to say. You always ask, did you hear from your Rav what to do in a state like that? Then, if somebody like me tells you, yes, I had a similar situation, and I asked, that's what they told me, because that's what you can do. Then you can do that. It's very, very, very important because our minds, our mental faculties are corrupted. We have to ask. We have to ask. We have to ask all the time. Because it's very easy. I know. It's like, I saw the situation already before. I know already what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing with that. I know. No, you know. Okay. This is how people, law aleinu, can become robbers. Okay. B'ezrat Hashem, we will stop here, and B'ezrat Hashem on Thursday we will learn Likutei Moharan. We'll continue with Torah Chafal.